Hello, everybody. Thank you for attending today's webinar. We are excited to have you on with us and to share some great information. I'm going to wait another 30, 60 seconds and we'll get some more folks logged in. But just as a preamble, we will be recording this and making it available afterwards. And we will also take some snippets. We usually find some really good little key 1 to 2 minute discussion points that we'll segment out. So keep an eye out for that communication, but we'll be back and get started in just a moment. Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. My name is Frank Raimondi. I'll be your host and also presenter today. But we are going to go through with the topic on enabling cyber hygiene in your environment. We're going to have a little discussion. We will have questions and answers periods throughout, and at the end as we need. So in the meeting panel that you have, there's a question section, so you can just enter a question in there, and we'll answer it along the way. We do have a couple pre-submitted questions that we'll keep an eye on as well. We'll answer as well. We'd also love to hear any topics and suggestions for other materials you have, or any other content ideas you have. Love to help out there. We do a couple different types of webinars. This one is a little bit more practical and sort of thought leadership, kind of just discussion about a topic or two. We also do more of a pure Q&A one and then live demo on Nodeware, and we'll bring in an MSP on that. So keep an eye out for that. But you can find out about all of those future and some of the past events and past webinars at nodeware.com/events. So please take a look and go from there. And as I mentioned, we will be recording this. Upcoming events, we are, Nodeware in particular, is very excited to be ready for IT Nation at the beginning of November. Nodeware was a finalist out of 28 vendors. We're in the top 3, and we'll be presenting as part of the Pitch It competition on November 8th. If you're interested to catch us there, and many other vendors, we'll find out who from other panelists will be there, but we will be there for sure and love to have you there. So keep an eye out for that as an exhibitor. Let's see. So today we have 2 distinguished guests with me. I'll have them introduce themselves in just a moment, but James from TD SYNNEX with a Cisco security focused play or security focus, talking about some of the market areas and the product overview there. And then Tish Williams from Phishing Tackle will be talking about security awareness training in general, and then a little bit more details about the product. So with that, let's maybe just do a little introductions, and I'll let them speak for themselves. So Tish, you're in the middle on the screen, but I'm going to go with you first. So give us your name, your role, kind of a little bit of history, and a little something interesting about you, something that people wouldn't necessarily see on your LinkedIn.
Okay, so yeah, I'm Tish Williams. Been in the channel, I think, for 20 plus years. That means I'm older than 20, and really have been focused on cybersecurity for the last 10 years, ever since it really has come out, especially on the training side. Been involved with, a lot of different organizations. Also very involved with CompTIA, so that's actually how Frank and I met. It really has kept me focused on the cybersecurity needs, what's happening right now in the world, and what is important to the clients, our partners, MSPs. And with that, let's see, something that is interesting about me. I would say that I've been to all but 9 US states and been to 4 different continents. So that might be somewhat interesting.
Okay, I like that.
World traveler.
A little bit. I'd like to travel more, but there's only so much time and money.
I've got a big trip in January that will I don't know that I'll technically gone on all 7, but I'll have been to all 7. So I'll keep that for another time. So anyway,
All right.
yeah. So James, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, you guys. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you, Frank, for the invitation. My name is James McGregor, and here at the TD SYNNEX side of things, I work for a team that specifically specializes in Cisco, and my particular role is on the Cisco security side of things. We have a different teammate that handles every single individual Cisco architecture. As some of you guys may be aware, security is starting to bleed into all of the different architectures, which is a good thing. But again, happy to be here and share some information with you guys about MFA and Cisco's solution to MFA Duo. Something interesting about myself, I have a picture when I get to share my slides. At a recent Cisco event in Vegas. It seems like you guys always meet somebody famous in Vegas. I ran into, for those of you that are football fans, Coach Mike Shanahan, national champion of the Denver Broncos coach. I got a picture with him in the Vegas airport. It is a very Vegas picture. There's all kinds of slot machines in the background. But like I said, it seems like you always run into somebody there and have a good story from Vegas. But really excited to be here. Thank you guys for the invitation, and I'll hand it back to Frank.
Great, thanks you. So again, James normally would be on cameras. We're not trying to hide him. It's just his camera's malfunctioning this morning, so we'll do that. So myself, I'm Frank Raimondi. I'm VP for Channel Alliances and Partnerships with Nodeware by IGI Cyber Labs and the broader IGI company that is involved in some other areas of cybersecurity. I've been with the company 2.5 years or so, and otherwise, like Tish, have a longer career than we look like, than our age might show. But I've been around, worked with Apple Computer way back in the day, and Intel Corporation, and done some consulting, but really been always focused on delivering value to partnerships and alliances, and making the 1 + 1 + 1 = 5 in our case, since we have the 3 parties here today. So the one interesting thing that few people know, that as part of the continent expansion, I've actually lived in Norway, and I actually speak Norwegian fluently. So I don't know exactly look Norwegian. Tish, I think maybe you should be the Norwegian speaker here, but it's actually me. And so if anybody needs some translation or just some interest on Norway, I'm an expert. So that's my interesting piece. So let's get into it, the topic, right? So we really wanted to talk about the generic term of cyber hygiene and what that means. And one of the questions we got pre-submitted that I think we'll answer here from a number of times along the way. But what are the biggest gaps to fill for SMBs when it comes to cybersecurity? And that was submitted by an MSP in the audience. And what we really are talking about here is the multiple elements. I'm sorry, I'm just going to get to my screen here so I can share my screen. One of the things that we kind of like to talk about is the ability to put multiple pieces together. That a security play is not just a single topic or a single element. It's not just antivirus, and it's not just a firewall. And what we're really kind of thinking about in our case today is these 4 legs of cyber hygiene. And what we'll talk about, we won't talk so much today about email security, but that's really kind of a key fundamental element of cyber hygiene. But the other pieces, the MFA and the awareness training and vulnerability management, really are critical elements to deliver. And again, back to the question, what are the core elements need to be delivered? Well, this is it, right? If you're not doing these, then you're not doing your customer service. You're not providing them any true value and prevention, right, of the risk. And so, the market opportunity, it really is sort of looking at compliance frameworks and cyber insurance companies and policies. So within compliance, right, they either have started to or requiring these three elements: vulnerability management, MFA, and security awareness training. If you're not providing those, you're not compliant, and or you're not going to, the second point here, you're not going to qualify for either a renewal of your cyber insurance or to even get a new policy. So it's really core fundamental things that they're looking for, right? If they're requiring it, this is the basic have to have. The other things add on to that and will provide additional value, but really these three pieces. And the good news from a market opportunities that we're seeing is that only half or so of the MSPs are really actively engaged in these security practices. That's increasing quite a bit, and they're having to, but the number of small businesses that aren't really providing or delivering any cybersecurity is even more scary. So we really think the market opportunity here is pretty significant, and we'd like to help you make that case. So I think part of this analogy that I like using it, this cyber hygiene is kind of like personal hygiene, right? You take a shower every day, or most people do, sometimes two. But that's your basic deliverable, right? To help yourself, avoid risk of illness and other things. You're reducing your risk. And the same thing in here really is the cyber hygiene. So James and Tish, maybe if you have any comments or thoughts about kind of the general broader category of cyber hygiene, how do you think this can be delivered?
Sure, I would say, go ahead, James.
Frank hit on the compliance component of it, and I think that's absolutely huge. I mean, a lot of times you can't even get, the insurance requirements or some of the other compliance requirements make it absolutely impossible to do anything unless you check certain boxes. And so many of those boxes have to do with security, and there's so many fines that are associated if you don't meet certain requirements. And so the bottom line is build it up robustly so that at the end of the day, you're not paying for something like a hack or a breach or a fine or something like that. You'd rather pay for your security solutions up front and have the peace of mind. Sorry, Tish, go ahead.
No worries. I think it hits it right on the head, and I would like to add to what Frank brought up, that you do everything you can in a personal side to stay healthy, right? We eat lots of vegetables, take your showers, do all the right things, but you still can get sick. But how do you minimize that, right? So the same thing when it comes to cybersecurity is how do you minimize the risk? You're never going to completely obliterate it, but on the same hand, if you can do all of the right steps, you can greatly improve that ability to stay safe and not have as many malware hacks as possible.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, so let's get into these three components, if we will, and let's talk sort of educational perspective first, right? Let's talk first, Tish, about where things start, right? They start with the employee. That's where we've seen, I think I can't remember the specific stat, but it's like 80 to 90% of hacks and things result from phishing and from user error and users clicking on things. But to minimize that, get people smarter about what they're clicking on, it's all about training, right? It's all about awareness of what to look for and what to not do. So maybe talk a little bit about security awareness training in general and its role in this.
Absolutely. Can you see my screen okay here?
Yep, we're good.
Good. Just making sure it came up. So a lot of it goes down, in terms of understanding the problem. So as an MSP, someone who is, working with your clients, what do your clients want? Well, if we look at 67% of CEOs, and this is based on Gartner, senior business executives want more technology done directly within a function or a department and less on IT. So what does that mean? Well, cybersecurity risks are at an all-time high, but that means when they're doing that there's going to be a huge knowledge gap, right? Those are the problems, right? So if you're saying, well, we don't want an IT department, who's got the knowledge base? And, if you're a doctor, lawyer, or flower shop owner, it's pretty much that's what you want to do, and not necessarily understand, the overall IT costs. They want reductions in that. They want to enhance security, and they want to boost productivity within their, staff. So what do your clients need, not just want? Well, often they don't know. They think they know, but they're not really aware. So the cost of cybersecurity services is increasing on several factors. It depends on the size of the business, the complexity of their environment. Perhaps that flower shop owner, maybe only has 7 employees, and they're just basically using credit cards to process a lot of things. Well, that's PCI, that's part of compliance. Do they have regulatory awareness that they have to meet, such as like an insurance organization, a law office, healthcare, right, when it comes to HIPAA? So how do you help your clients? Well, you build a strategy plan, right? And you guys really do know a lot of the things that need to be done, but there's sometimes missing pieces, and how can we help you do that better? So you decide what actions need to take place, and then you, of course, would execute. So why security awareness training? Well, here's the area where I think it's just really important to understand that small businesses are the largest target. They're easier to break into because they don't believe that they're the target. You have, a CEO, executive president of an organization with 25 employees, and they're very important to themselves and to that organization. And they just don't feel like, the hackers in Russia are going to go after them. Well, that's not true. They really do go after them. The other part is, the outside threats. So you've got like phishing attacks and what I call stranger danger. And that is an example where small organizations, and this is a true story, walked into an office, and this CEO was very excited, about, talking about security and all of these things, and really was on the forefront. And right there on the front wall as you walk in was their, URL link, right, to get into their website, and with the password, everything just right there. So anybody walking by, anybody coming in could go right into their network. And it's one of those things that you're like, first off, that's really not a good thing to do. And having those kind of discussions, right? And then, the other part is sometimes, organizations unknowingly through a stranger danger, you have an attractive man or woman walk in, they say, oh, I just dropped my resume, I'm coming for an interview next door, could you help me? Here's my thumb drive, it'll say resume, could you just print it for me? And now they're again in your network. So those are the type of things that happen, as well. Even if you have somebody with what we call tailgating, they might walk into the office, and somebody's holding a door open. Hey, can you hold it for me? Sure, I've got my hand full. Yeah, without checking credentials, should they even be in that office? And all they have to do is drop a toggle, right? Toggles are what connects your computer, obviously, to a computer to your phone, rather. And they can just drop one. You have an iPhone, you top the toggle somewhere, someone picks it up. Hey, I got an extra one free. As soon as they plug it in, they're loaded with malware. They've just invaded your environment again. So there's a lot of areas that within the trainings they're going to learn, don't do that. The other is insider threats, disgruntled employees. A lot of organizations, if I'm a president with 25 people, I think I pick them all, I can trust them all. But let me tell you, somebody gets upset, you say the wrong thing, the wrong way, the wrong look, and they get upset and they steal data and information. So you have to really be on the forefront of paying attention. And of course, compliance is always the biggie, right? So, the National Institute of Standards, the NIST, the HIPAA, PCI, just to name a few. Those are the areas that really make an important difference. And from there, I'll turn it over to James.
Yeah, so let's go, James, into talking a little bit about multi-factor authentication and the security pieces there. And I mean, the biggest problem I'm sure you'll talk about, right, is just fatigue with it, right? People that are, the executives in particular, right? They just don't like doing that, all that right stuff. So when you can, if you can make MFA a little easier, and kind of reinforce it with the security training that Tish is talking about and why it's important, maybe you can describe a little bit more from there. So
Absolutely.
And show a picture of yourself as well. So now we know.
As promised, there's a picture of me and Coach at the same event. Cisco was showing off some of their Meraki technology and how they were timing the weights for lines to go see the Lombardi Trophy. I didn't get to touch it or spike it, unfortunately, but it was still pretty cool. All right, let's get into it, folks. So MFA, I just real briefly want to go over MFA, sort of the components of it, how it plays into, I'm sure you guys have heard zero trust, and sort of what that means and why it's important, why it's useful. So MFA is something that you have, and it's something that you know. It is a device that is in your possession that is trusted by the company that you work for, the network that you're working for. There is some sort of a trusted device that you have access to, and then there's something that you're going to need to know. And there's different ways that MFAs can give you that something you need to know. It can be biometrics, right, that are unique to you. It can be a token that will be pushed directly to that phone or to that device. It can be a code that they text you. There's different ways that you are authenticating yourself as you are saying who you are, where you are, and the device that you're trying to access with is the device that it says it is. That's the whole point, right? It's no longer about a simple single password system. That system is outdated. It was probably outdated shortly after it was even created. It's not enough anymore. Single passwords it's just not enough anymore. And as Tish pointed out, MFA is not the end all be all, right? This isn't going to solve 110% of your problems. This isn't completely foolproof. It is a tool in your toolbox along with other security solutions that help bolster your portfolio as much as you can. Tish shared some stats. I've got a couple stats. 81% of breaches are leveraged by either stolen or weak passwords. Again, that single password system is just a landmine field for breaches, right? And so MFA works to sort of resolve that by adding in different layers of authentication so that you can prove that you are who you say you are, because it's super easy, either via phishing or there's so many different ways out there that the bad guys can get your passwords, and there's so much human error. Tish shared some anecdotes about different things that she's seen. I will go to the airport and just people watch at the airport, and you will see people doing work on their laptops, and they will get up and they will walk away and they will leave their laptop open. If it's to go to the bathroom to throw something away in the trash, whatever it is, that laptop is open and vulnerable. Right, it is human error. A lot of it, it's not malicious on the part of the employee. A lot of time, it's just basic human error, and it can cause a lot of heartache and a lot of headache for IT teams and ultimately the executives of the company that now have to deal with it. So Duo specific, but obviously the whole purpose of MFA is secure access for all users connecting to any application from any device. Duo is so user-friendly, you can hook it up as well as other MFAs, right? These are some of the examples of who and the what that you would use in MFA, right? Employees, contractors, partners, vendors, auditors. Those are the people. That's the person component of it that wants to connect to something, right? A phone or a corporate laptop, a BYO device, workstations, virtual machines, medical equipment, right? And so in order for that person to access it, they need to verify who they are so that, if you can get access to medical equipment, we're having all kinds of hacking attacks where hackers are taking over hospitals, not for ransomware, not for money, but they're taking over the machines. Well, they're obviously going after money, but they're not hacking in to steal credit card information. They're hacking to take control over that medical equipment that is now controlling the health and the lives of people, and that's how they're getting into making their demands. So the game has shifted a little bit, but that's just one other entry point for hackers to come in and cause a lot of problems. And then the work assets that Duo MFA can help you to access: APIs, servers, portals, VPNs. Here at TD SYNNEX, if I want to remotely access the VPN, which I'm not in the office very much, so a lot of time, 99% of the time, I'm having to remotely access the VPN. We have to use Duo, and I have to get a token push notification sent to my work phone that is a trusted device, and I have to confirm that I am who I say I am. I have the only one that has access to that phone, and then it'll grant me access to that VPN. The other things that are going on in the background, and we'll get into this a little bit more in detail a little bit later, but also the system wants to make sure that I am where I say I am. If somebody's saying that they're James McGregor, they're trying to access the VPN, but they're accessing from a device in China, that's clearly going to be a red flag, and it's going to flag something that's going to say, okay, this guy may have one component of it. He says he's James McGregor, but there's some sort of red flag on this other factor of the authentication where the geo tag is saying, oh, he's not in Denver, Colorado. He's not in the United States of America. He's in China. We're not going to give him access. This is just a real quick kind of graphic about, it just, again, this is specific to Duo, but it's really not. It's in general of MFA. Verify the identity of the users. Duo also has a feature that will verify the health of the devices that are trying to access the VPN, and you can control it and set policies to say, well, only Apple devices can access, or only Android devices can access, or they need to be running a certain iOS, or they need to have firewall enabled, et cetera, et cetera. So you can set those policies and make sure that those devices are compliant with those before they gain access. The last slide I have here in sort of the overview before I pass the ball back is, and we've touched on this a lot just in the 20 minutes that we've been on the webinar, the compliance requirements. And I know Tish mentioned this and Frank mentioned this. There's all kinds of different compliance requirements, and MFA is usually the bare minimum you have to meet requirements for your cyber insurance policies or any of these other compliance things. Duo is a robust version of that. We've seen a lot of people get pushed back because they're using other MFAs, but the bottom line is you have to have some sort of MFA these days because, as mentioned, the old way of doing things, it's just not good enough anymore. Before I go into the product overview, I will stop sharing and pass the ball back to, we're going back to Tish or Frank?
I'll take the ball and run
Awesome.
for a little bit. So yeah, so those are, again, very, very powerful pieces of what you again, in training and in preparation and in, disabling things from coming through. And one other element in this chair that we're talking about, right, is the continuous vulnerability management and what that does and what it, the slide here says, help answer common end user questions, but it's really, just sort of the why, right? And we'll just go through these quickly, right? Proactive identification, right, is essential. You can't protect and you can't lower the risk of things you don't know what they're at. So you got to find them, and then you got to be able to continuously look at them and scan them. And when you're scanning, you're looking for, very well-known public, vulnerabilities from the Microsofts and the Ciscos and any other vendor, Dell, again, just broad range of software and hardware vulnerabilities that are published. If this is missing, then that means this, or if these two things are present, then that means this. So those elements are really important. The EDRs and the SIM tools that you may be using today are really powerful and helpful, but they really more like tell you what's happened and what to do. So they don't try to help you necessarily prevent those things from happening in the first place. And so that just to clarify sort of the line between a vulnerability tool and the SIM and EDR tools. There's also, I wanted to call out a difference between assessments and management when it comes to vulnerability. And really in the past, again, going back to insurance or compliance, there's been a check mark for vulnerability program or a vulnerability scan that you maybe did once a year or twice a year. And so, that's an assessment where you just do it, you look at it, you report it, say, here's where we are, and maybe you do something with it, maybe you don't. But management is identifying, sort of proactively looking for those things, and it's looking at the remediation of those steps before they become a problem. Right, vulnerabilities come down every day, published by the hundreds of vendors that publish them. We are looking, Nodeware in particular, and most other vendors are looking for the match between those published vulnerabilities and the data that we see in the systems that we've done in the scan. And so, this is from an MSP standpoint, continuous vulnerability, this management is for more, is better used for prospecting and true management. It's not just a one-time thing. The management is, really need to look at that. So one of the elements that comes up a lot in terms of understanding the differences, vulnerability assessment, management, and even a penetration test kind of get often used in the same context and sort of interchangeably when they really shouldn't. As I mentioned, right, assessment is a one-time testing process used to, identify and assign severity levels as many possible, but it's a really given point in time. So, you might do it on a Monday, or in a lot of cases you had to do these on a Sunday because the traditional systems have been very burdensome on the network. But in this case, whenever it's done, within 24 or 48 hours, or very short amount of time, that is kind of out of date. And that's where vulnerability management comes in, with the ongoing, the continuous, the daily matching of known vulnerabilities to active and found devices, and proactively repair those and remediate before they become a true issue. Now, penetration test is a good yin and yang, if you will, to the vulnerability management. But management is the ongoing checking. Penetration test is also required by many insurance companies and compliance frameworks, where they're, you want to just try to break in, right? It's the good guys of the hackers, the hacker world, trying to break in, trying to exploit anything that might be there, provide a report and fix those over time. So that's a really good snapshot, really good test from the outside perspective. The vulnerability management is from the inside perspective. So I'll talk a little bit more about Nodeware in a moment, but let me go and, well, I was just gonna say that the first two you can do with Nodeware, obviously the middle one in particular, and penetration tests. There's a lot of different vendors, including our parent company, IGI, and we can talk about that if people have any questions or interest. So let me stop sharing, and I'll go back to Tish to, again, that's kind of the questions, and if people have any questions, please do post them into the questions box. We had another one about what happens if you are broken into, and that's really not the topic of expertise here, but the quick answer is, if you do have a customer that is breached, their first call should be to either their insurance company or their lawyer, probably dialing both at the same time to get yourself set up and properly processed. So Tish, let's go into Phishing Tackle. Tell me a little bit about kind of why you went there, right? You've worked at a number of different awareness training companies before. What drew you to them, and what's their kind of key advantages?
Sure. If I could share the screen, might be helpful. I can show it a little bit. Here we go.
You bet.
Okay, so yeah, I've like I say, almost just about 10 years now. I worked for KnowBe4 for quite a long time. I was very early employee, number like 11. I worked for Inspired eLearning, and then also InfoSec, and chose Phishing Tackle because it's really different and very exciting. I am channel focused. I'm channel everything in my career in sales has been in channel, other than my early babysitting days when I was young. So with that in mind, when I came to this organization, I loved the executive team, I loved the development team, and it was built for MSPs. That is a huge game changer for me, right? You don't have to worry about us trying to take customers, because we are really built for you to help you with your clients. It's ease of management, ease of use, typical things that, a lot of organizations say are so important. With here, we have, easy to follow visual steps on each page, of it. It's prompted, it's easy to get through. And all of this can be something you can actually relate to, because we have a free trial. So you can play with it, see, and I can tell you, out of all the ones that I've looked at, ours is the easiest to be able to set up. So this is a lot of words, but some of the things here are important. And I think it really goes back to understanding, being designed for you. We have an extensive partner portal management portal. And with that, we have a lot of things that are going to be added into that. We are 100% white labeled. Make it your own product, right? So when you're selling this as part of your security stack, then you can say, hey, you know, this is just a piece of the pie. But because it's white labeled, you can have your logos, your design. You can choose to use the customer's, client's design, whatever works best for you. Again, it's the ease of use. You see the trial, get to work with it. We have active integration with Microsoft 365 and then also with Google Workspace. And what that means is no more whitelisting. Just click a button and you can say, hey, this client's on Microsoft, boom, no whitelisting needed. We do integrated dark web scanning, you know, about every 5 to 6 hours. We have policy management. The reason that's really important, and that really goes along with the whole security factor, is that organizations have their own policies. So if your client, let's say, was a bank and said, we need to have 2 people open and 2 people close every day, right? One inside, one outside. It's a security feature. You can have a policy around that. And those policies are something that, you know, clients, sometimes they have hundreds. If it's a hospital, HIPAA, if it's an insurance organization or a law office, they can have as many as they want, and you can help manage. You can also create your own policy for your clients that they then have to acknowledge, right? In helping you to keep them in a safe environment. Of course, unlimited email templates and hundreds of trainings, just like everybody else. So that part's not really is different, right? Everyone's got that. We do too. But what's really different is on the partner portal management, you're going to have super admin, sub admin, hierarchical controls, which means as a super admin, maybe it's the CTO or CEO of an organization, and say, you know, for your business, you are the super admin, and you can choose, you know, 2 other individuals to handle these 5 accounts and these 10 accounts. Maybe 5 are focused on healthcare, the other 10 are focused on, let's say, retail, and you can choose what they have access to, you can set all the controls, and then sub-admin can only have control over certain areas or full control. You really get a lot of that, which is completely different than anyone else I've seen. You'll have support tickets in your management portal. It's going to have all your API integrations, centralized notifications, social media reporting, Zendesk, and much more. So those are some of the things that we're doing different that really seem to be helping our partners. With our product, just so you know, if you refer this webinar, I want to let you know that you're going to get 5% off your first order. So, you know, anyone is interested, we'll be following up. I can send out those free trial links and a little bit more information. So with that, I'm going to go to James.
Yeah, thanks, Tish. And James, if you want to start sharing your screen, that'd be great. So again, just, you know, talk a little bit more specifically about Duo and you know, how it fits in here and how easy it is for MSPs to implement.
Awesome. And that being said too, I know there are quite a bit of MSPs on the call today. As I mentioned, on my particular team, you know, we have a different individual that covers every Cisco architecture. That includes MSP, and obviously with security, you know, I have a hand in MSP as well, and so, you know, would be able to answer probably the majority of your questions. But if you wanted to have an in-depth conversation with somebody on the team about Cisco, their MSP program, their MSLA program, their MSSP program, again, I have a reference on my team that would be able to talk specifically to that. Duo specifically, you know, I covered sort of MFA in general. Duo specifically, as I mentioned, right, these are the different ways that once it's set up, which it's very easy to set up, it's very easy to integrate. Once you're there, it's completely customizable in terms of how you want to do those different factor authentication. So you can get a push code. I mentioned all of these, you know, it's the one thing that you know, right? I do have it on my, it's not my Apple Watch, on my Samsung Watch, but I mean, it's literally, I can be trying to get online, push it, the notification goes right to your watch, you confirm it, and boom, you have access to the VPN. As long as those devices are trusted, you're good to go. And these are all the different ways that you can customize Duo specifically based on your preferences. As I mentioned as well, Duo, it is different from other MFAs. Not every MFA carries this particular product feature, but Duo has a device health and it will tell you all of the different things about the device that's accessing. Now, this is from the technical side of things. So this is not the user-facing side of things. This is if you are running Duo for your MSP. These are the types of data that it's going to collect that you're going to be able to see. It's going to be able to see, are the iOSs up to date for the devices that are trying to access it, right? And you can set all of these different requirements. You can require that the firewall be enabled, that the Mac operating system be up to date. And as Tish pointed out with hers as well, these policies are totally customizable, which means if you want to make these certain things requirements, then in order to gain access to whatever it is the user's trying to gain access to, they're going to have to check those boxes. If the firewall is not enabled, it's going to tell them the firewall needs to be enabled, and it's super user-friendly. It will tell them how they need to go through and do that if they're not familiar, right? If it's an unintentional thing, right, and the firewall is not enabled, then they'll walk it through. Obviously, if the firewall is disabled intentionally, then there's probably some malicious thing going on there. And so, the program Duo will walk the user through. So if it's something that's unintentional, unbeknownst to them, they'll still be able to access it. They just have to make sure that all of the different things required by the policy are met. The 3 top reasons that customers choose Duo, I'm not going to read these out to you guys. I'll leave it up here for a second, but the bottom line is, right, it's easy. It's easy to deploy. It's very quick with out-of-the-box integrations and the least amount of friction for end users. It's a very easy product to use. It's a very easy product to set up. More secure, obviously, it's biased. Everybody's going to say that theirs is more secure, but as I've mentioned in the past, we have had customers come to us and say, look, we are running this XYZ MFA. We have been told by certain compliance agency ABC that this is not robust enough. It's not secure enough. What is the problem? We push Duo, they take Duo back to whomever their compliance officer is or whatever that body is, and they say, boom, we're good to go. We've seen that happen countless times. And then the lower TCO, right? No servers to deploy and maintain, up to 85% lower help desk calls, right? This helps with really lean IT. It's just a very, very easy to use product. And these are some of the reasons that customers have given why they like to use Duo. I like to include this slide. This is obviously not exhaustive, but this is just to kind of show how nicely Cisco plays with everybody else. Duo is accepted and protected by all of these different applications. Again, not exhaustive. These are just the big top players. It's a very versatile product, and you can use it for all kinds of applications and devices, as I mentioned earlier on in the presentation. This slide, so the next 3 slides are the different versions of Duo: Duo MFA, Duo Access, which is the most popular purchase, and then Duo Beyond. I just like to include this. If you'd like to take a screenshot of this, if you think this would be valuable, please go ahead and do so now. It just shows you what you get with each iteration of the product. There is a link to discuss pricing. My team specifically does not do anything with quoting or pricing. We are more on the training, enablement, education, certification side of the house. But that being said, I'm happy to quarterback this situation to someone in sales that would be able to give you pricing based on your needs. That being said, again, I can't give specific pricing in this presentation. I assume the slide deck will be passed around at the end of this. So again, I'm not going to go through all of these slides. I don't want to take up all the time, but I have included, for when we do send the slide deck out, all 3 slides that discuss the 3 different options: Duo MFA, Duo Access, Duo Beyond, the 3 different versions that you saw here on this slide. It will go into detail about what you get for each of those products. And again, you'll have these. I don't want to read it to you and take up everybody's time. But
I think with TD SYNNEX, you guys know a thing or two about how to quote pricing to an MSP. So.
Absolutely. No. We do. It would not fall to me specifically, but come to me. And what I will do is I will take it to somebody that will get it done for you that day. Absolutely.
Well, nothing else, they can ask their TD SYNNEX rep for you to come into the discussion and have them help.
Yes. And anything having to do with Cisco security specific, feel free to reach out to me. Anything having to do with Cisco in general, again, use me as a main point of contact, and I'm happy to, again, get it to, if it's not in my wheelhouse, if you guys have specific MSP questions that I can't answer, or you want to talk about Cisco collab products, etc., I will get it to that person that can help. Feel free to use me as a jumping off point. I'm more than happy to do that.
Perfect. Okay, super. All right, well, let me go back and show you a little bit about Nodeware, just to get some specifics and talk through what it is, right? It is a vulnerability management system, continuous scanning, the kind of the things I called out, where it's kind of leading obviously to our product. But we also provide a really good, strong way to save a lot of time and money as an MSP through the recipes we provide in the tool, for remediation. And we've announced by the end of the year, we'll have a tool, a function within this to actually do the remediation or the patching directly within the application. So saving you even more time and providing some key value there. So just some key points at Nodeware, right? Truly continuous. We do this through sensors, agents, and external scanning. So again, you capture every IP address on your network. You can make sure you're managing your devices that are remote, whether it's traveling salespeople or just 100% remote workers. You can put agents on them, so they're included in the mix. And then your externals for your cloud instances and your websites, just to kind of keep an eye on them and make sure that they're not any vulnerabilities coming to them. There's some real-time alerts that are available on network access, newfound risks, and if a sensor goes offline. We are providing, or we will be announcing at IT Nation next month, our ConnectWise integration. So all this will be natively inputted into your ConnectWise very soon. But either through there or just directly in the tool, the reports and output, right? We've been finding that this remediation recipes that we provide today is saving up to 20% of tech time. Just not having to research the vulnerability or the CVE number and how to apply it. We provide that really very simply and cleanly within the tool. And as I said, we have some feeds coming into the RMMs and other tools via a whole extensive set of APIs. Available on one-year subscription purchasing or consumption, just kind of pay as you go, no contract. Again, I can talk through some more of that. So quickly, who we are, besides a space-aged alien-looking dude known as Node. If you got an idea for a name, we're gonna have a naming contest here soon. But we are channel only, US support and development, the white glove onboarding, which is done the first time, and typically after that, the MSPs are up and running. And even when we do the white glove onboarding, they've usually already had it up and deployed before that call. We talked a bit about some flexible purchasing, ease of deployment, right? It's very stable. The product's been around almost 6 years. We keep improving it, but we're very focused on vulnerability management as a singular deliverable. And so we really are we're not trying to add in a bunch of other tools. We partner with folks like with Tish and with James and with Cisco and VCIO Toolbox that have their specialty, and we're providing our element of expertise on a timely and continuous manner. So that's really our key piece that we like to focus on. So again, Nora, if you want to bring up the contact information slide, we can show that, how people to get a hold of us. I think we answered questions along the way, some that came in, some that were pre-submitted. But maybe kind of just as a Q&A or sort of wrap up, I'll start with you, Tish. If you want to just kind of your 1-minute summary of, why SAT, I'll just go to the acronym way, but why awareness training is really critical and how it's a good function for an MSP selling to their SMB customers. Actually, you're muted there, Tish.
Thank you. I didn't realize. I'm trying not to make too much noise. It kind of goes back to the analogy that you brought up earlier, Frank. So security awareness training is not a mission critical piece, right? So a lot of times we hear from MSP partners saying, well, I don't know if it's really needed. It seems like, but again, it's, what are you going to do to minimize the exposure, to your health risk as a person, right? So you take your showers, you eat your vegetables, you do all the right things to try and minimize, having illness. And so with that, you know, using security awareness training helps you to minimize those threats and those problems. Again, with Phishing Tackle, the reason I'm really excited about being here is where, you know, MSP, you know, 100% for the MSPs. We are building our partner portal for you, a console, can't speak, the console, so it's ease of use for you, right? It's easy for you to manage. It has all the API integrations that you could ask for and more. We're very responsive, so if there's something else that an MSP says, hey, if you did this, wave a magic wand, what would that be, and can we put that in play? That's what we're doing. That's exactly what we're doing. So we're really excited about it, that, you know, you own the customers, it's white labeled, we don't even know who they are, it's not our business, you run your business your way. And we do it all at a fantastic price. And of course, you can get 5% off if you reach me and acknowledge this webinar.
Perfect. Okay, super. James, any last minute thoughts and pieces of wisdom?
Thank you guys so much for attending today. I just want to leave you guys with, look, we know here at the TD SYNNEX side, on the Cisco side of things, you know, we know security is not a one-stop shop anymore. We know you may sell things other than Cisco. You may not sell any Cisco at all. But if you would like to have a conversation with the team about how Cisco can help your existing security practice, we have the resources here to have that conversation with you guys, especially with Duo. Duo is one of the Cisco MSP offerings. So if you would like to have a conversation about how that works and what some of the other Cisco MSP offerings are, would be happy to coordinate that with you guys and have a further conversation. So let us know how we can help. We have an abundance of resources that are just chomping at the bit to get you guys whatever training, enablement, and education you guys need to be successful.
Perfect. Okay. And then I'll just sort of wrap up and you know, again, our approach here today was, you know, helping you build a more hygienic security stack, right? And you know, some of you are much more sophisticated having a stack, but you know, some of these things kind of are simple and straightforward. And I think in a lot of cases for MSPs that are prospecting to new customers, right, these are 3 or 4 key elements that you can start the conversation with, and you can easily deliver, gain their trust, and build a much an even richer security practice around. So please, you know, contact us, Nodeware.com, or my emails here on the screen. Would love to tell you more. And I think that's it on the question. So I'll just give Tish and James a very big thank you. Appreciate your time and your expertise and your sharing, especially on the personal side. Now we know a little bit more about each other, so that's always helpful. But again, mostly thank you to the attendees today. We appreciate your time and your attention, and please look forward to hearing from you in the future. Have a great afternoon, everybody.
Thank you, Frank, for the invite. Thank you, Tish.
You too, James and Frank, as always. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.